My name is Juan Garcia, and first off, I'd like to take the time to thank all of you for listening to this argument. My partner and I are here today to inform you all of our argument that the work published by William Shakespeare should be accredited to Edward de Vere. After hearing our argument, I hope you may all share the same perspective as we do. I will start by breaking our case down into three main contentions, the first of which being that de Vere must have been a very well-educated man to be able to accept credit for Shakespeare's work. Edward de Vere graduated from Cambridge University at the age of 14 and was a Master of English Arts by the age of 16. In his studies, he would acquire great knowledge of the royal courts and language arts. This would lead to obvious suggestions that he would be fully capable of understanding and writing texts and plays pertained to concepts of law. Our second contention is built off the background of the well-known play Hamlet and its relation to de Vere's life. For example, in the play, Queen Gertrude would play Hamlet's mother, which would resemble reality as Queen Elizabeth, which was Edward de Vere's mother. Also, in the play, Chamberlain Polonius was the chief advisor to Queen Gertrude, while in reality it had William Cecil as Queen Elizabeth's chief advisor. Both comparisons are coincidentally similar in both cases. Our third contention before our opponents speak, I'd like to address the fact that in his life, Edward de Vere did indeed take a voyage throughout Italy. He and a few companions would take this voyage in the 1570s, which would put de Vere in an ideal position to have acquired the same, if not more, knowledge of Venice and the rest of Italy than Shakespeare himself. Now questions.
Besides Hamlet, do you have anything else that can relate Shakespeare's plays and poems to Edward de Vere's life?
Well, Hamlet was enough. Hamlet is not the only thing that we have, but Hamlet was enough in detail related to his life. Not only were those two examples that I gave in the play Hamlet, because they couldn't be taken as just coincidence, because well, in depth to Polonius resembling his life, it was also a type of relation with his stepfather, which he didn't really have a good relationship with after his actual father passed. It's not the base of the case, but it's a more in-depth of the detail that I gave. It just adds on to what we really had before.
So in other words, no.
A little bit.
Can you name some other plays as examples?
Not now.
What about the sonnets? Because it's not just about the plays. How would de Vere write such beautiful sonnets as Shakespeare did?
Well, de Vere not only had the concepts of law in mind from his law school, but he also had language arts in mind from classes that he also took at Cambridge and from other schools when he was younger.
But love doesn't come from law. Love comes from your feelings. So it wouldn't have anything to do with law.
Well, it's not as if Edward de Vere didn't have love. Emotions are emotions, and every human has them. Edward de Vere.
His law education had nothing to do with sonnet writing.
You don't have to have love to write a sonnet.
The sonnets that are credited to Shakespeare's name are about love and beauty of women and everything lovely.
That doesn't mean you have to have love in your life.
Time.
Okay, so I'm Brandy Casillas, and my partner Dakota Little and I are for the negative side of this, and we do not believe that Edward de Vere is the author of the plays and sonnets that are attached to William Shakespeare's. Our three contentions are that Shakespeare's name was almost never written. It was usually typed. And Edward de Vere did not appreciate women the way Shakespeare so obviously did in his work. Hardly any evidence exists to prove that William Shakespeare was the only writer who wrote.
So if de Vere didn't write the plays, or if Shakespeare didn't, then who wrote the play?
We think it was like a group work between multiple writers. And
Can you name some of the writers?
So there was Ben Jonson, Carmelo, and Francis Bacon. Plus some other people.
Were they in Italy at the time? Or do you have any proof that they were in Italy? Well, you said that he types his signature. There is evidence of him writing his signature, and it has been proved that it's been misspelled before.
That's why we said it was multiple writers, because if William was the real author, why would he spell his name differently? And there were so many different spellings. I think they were written by different people.
I can see. That's all the questions I have. I'll be speaking secondly for the affirmative side. First, I want to start by talking about genius and what it is. The definition of genius is kind of hard to explain. So, in my words, I'd say it's a skill that you have to work at, just like anything else you'd have to do in life. But you do have to train at being a genius. Like, if you lift, then you'd have to train by lifting to get bigger, just like your brain's a muscle. And that's what this argument seems to keep coming back to, is who's a genius and who wasn't. But, on de Vere's case, he was a upper-class citizen, and it was kind of frowned upon to write sonnets. During the play Hamlet, there are similarities between de Vere's life and the play, such as when de Vere was 11, he was kidnapped by pirates, which explains the clues that's been left behind in Hamlet. And in the play it also says young men falling out at tennis, which brings back to a scuffle that de Vere had with another man on a tennis court, which is something that really happened and can be traced back. So it was kind of like an autobiography of his life. And whenever you see Shakespeare on his work, it's believed that de Vere was trying to protect his family and his family's name by trying to stay under wraps and not let everyone know that he was a famous playwright. And the censorship also explains some political affiliations that he had with other writers, such as his enemies, that he didn't want to know that he was writing plays. So that could explain why it hasn't come up anytime.
So, my name is Dakota, and I'll be the second negative speaker for the authorship debate. Reviewing our contentions, we believe that Edward de Vere was not the true author of the plays attached to William Shakespeare's name, because Shakespeare's name was usually typed. Edward de Vere did not appreciate women the way Shakespeare so obviously did in his work. And there's hardly any evidence that exists to prove that William Shakespeare was the only writer who wrote what is accredited to his name. The affirmative side brought up that Edward de Vere probably used a pseudonym to protect his family, because a nobleman could not take credit for the political satire that was written under Shakespeare's name. However, de Vere could not have really worried about being frowned upon or shaming his family, because he had had an illegitimate child with the former fiance of his best friend, Sir Philip Sidney, who was the one that he had a falling out with at the tennis court. That is what they believed is similar to the one mentioned in Hamlet. And it was also named after him, which is an honor for a son to be named after his father in those times. So it couldn't have been, he couldn't have really been that interested in what his family thought of him if he had had an illegitimate child. Second of all, he didn't really seem to appreciate love and relationships the way that he seemed to if he had written the plays, because it shows the lack of respect for the arranged marriages and boundaries that the royalty has. In most of Shakespeare's plays, there's always arranged marriages. Even though they're never followed through and always argued against, some examples are Romeo's amour with Rosalind, Cassio with Bianca, Claudio and Juliet, and rival suitors proposed by the parents are quietly resisted or merely abused, never even by the gentlest accepted. So he wouldn't have written that if he hadn't had this sense to try to stand up to his family, because both wives, Anne Cecil and Anne Vavasor, were members of the royal court, and he could have argued his case on why he wanted to marry them instead of someone else, which, since he had graduated Cambridge at 14, he should have had no problem doing. They also brought up that there was knowledge and that de Vere had gone to Italy. So when we think that William Shakespeare wasn't the only one who wrote all of these plays and parts about traveling and things like fencing and things of law, one of his friends, Ben Jonson, could have been a consultant for court life and happenings, because he was actually in the court at the time and he did write plays and he did write other sonnets for them. So if there were any rumors going around the court, such as de Vere and Sidney's tennis court squabble, he probably would have told his friend William. And it's not very uncommon to be captured by pirates in those days. Famous author Geoffrey Chaucer was also kidnapped by pirates and had his ransom paid by a king. So it wasn't just, oh, he was kidnapped by pirates, and so was someone in Hamlet, so it must be that. And for those reasons, I will leave you guys to work and try to figure out.
Okay, so first off, I would like to address the comment that my opponent made earlier about Edward de Vere having an illegitimate child, and the even more prior comment that she made about Edward de Vere not being able to sense or feel emotion as well as Shakespeare did in his plays. If this man did indeed have an illegitimate child, that would prove that in some shape or form he did have the potential to love and have a child, which would prove me wrong on that. And about the love part, not being able to write it into his plays, we refer to Edward de Vere as a genius. Therefore, we believe that a genius should have superior intellect and the higher-minded willpower to not let love and emotions interfere with his work, but be able to use those without having them in his life, because we did believe he is indeed a genius, which is why we think he did indeed write these sonnets and the plays, even the ones that did refer to love, because he was a lover. And that would going back to the illegitimate child, that would also relate to our point, as him trying to defend and protect his family name. Not only would his writing hurt his family's name because it was frowned upon, but the illegitimate child would also, but that was not more of a point to prove to that. It was just that he had the potential to love.
Okay, so our first one was awkward. So my opponent Juan brought up that Edward de Vere showed love because he had a kid with somebody, but he had a relationship with his wife, and then he divorced her after hearing rumors of her infidelity, and then had an affair with his best friend's wife, which does not show love, because obviously he didn't care that it was his best friend's fiancée. And then for, like, if it was frowned upon to put his name on that, so he wouldn't have taken credit for William Shakespeare's, why were there poems found in the British Library that were similar to those of Shakespeare, but had Edward de Vere's name on them? So how would it be frowned upon for him to put his name on William Shakespeare's writings, but he can put him on the poems written in the British Library? So, also, de Vere was pronounced dead in 1604 before King Lear, The Tempest, and Macbeth and other great plays were published. And during his lifetime, Shakespeare's identity was not questioned until centuries after. And an associate of Shakespeare, Ben Jonson, could have been used as a consultant for court life happenings and any rumors swirling around the court, which could take account for the court stuff in Shakespeare's plays. And genius is a natural talent. It's not a skill. It's something you're born with. Like Albert Einstein. And plenty of people are self-taught at something, guitar, even reading, writing, like Helen Keller.
To wrap up why we believe that Shakespeare was not the only writer who wrote these plays and why it should not be credited to Edward de Vere, we mentioned Ben Jonson being a consultant for court life, and they brought up that there were signatures that were all different and spelled differently, written differently, but probably did not know that most signatures and manuscripts that were kept were only by noblemen and kings. So if you can show me a de Vere signature that can prove that it was maybe similar to Shakespeare's and that he just tried to forge it, be my guest. Manuscripts of Shakespeare's plays were only of value so long as they were in print, but paper was so rare back then that they were usually tossed out and recycled to make into something else. So if you had any other way of finding any of his handwriting, it wouldn't have been kept, because after plays were performed, that's it. That was their value. Their value was how much money you made off of them and how much people liked them. Also, my partner brought up that his identity was not questioned for centuries after his lifetime. So if it really mattered that much to Edward de Vere or his family about him getting credit for it, it would have come up sooner. And I understand wanting to protect his family from it, but he must have not cared if he published a book of poems and it ended up in the British Library that he put his name on. So you can't say that he didn't want to disrespect or embarrass his family by not putting his names on these satirical plays and beautiful sonnets if he put a book of poetry published with his name on it. For those reasons and others, I believe that the ballot should be in favor of William Shakespeare keeping the credit for his name and his hard work.
I'm gonna start by saying that you're saying that his stuff was beautiful and appreciative by women, and maybe that's what he was going for, to be famous, because it worked. And your opinion about genius being a talent, I don't think is very valid, because it is something that you have to work at, because you can't just be thrown into like a pit and then just be a genius. You have to have information prior to that. But you did bring up a lot of good points about his signature, but I don't think that we do have enough evidence to even go any further on that. But he could have wrote like all those poems before he died. As you can see, there is not excessive proof linking Shakespeare back to his writing, but even more so linking De Vere. I say that this form of perspective of textual and background informational proof. Further, I thank you all for talking and giving your say, but I just don't think at this point in time we don't have enough proof to understand who really did it.